Super Bowl preview week, guys. We're kicking it off this weekend for next weekend. You got Big Dad here. We have the legend, the Blue Meanie over here. Philly's finest. Like, subscribe, follow. Let's go.
Oh my God! I'm embarrassed! He's flying!
Welcome in. It's almost time.
Super Bowl preview week. We're here, guys. I'm excited. I feel like it's like all these bye weeks. All these bye weeks are driving me crazy, but it's great because we know we got games the next week. It's your boy Chrome. It's Big Dad over here. Tom Arnone. We got Brian Heffron, a.k.a. the legendary ECW legend, WWE legend, Blue Meanie with us. And we're talking NFL football. We're talking Birds talk. We're talking Super Bowl 57 because we are back, guys, on the 5-year anniversary since our last one. Really excited. But before we do that, we got to pay a couple bills. Big Dad, who's paying our bills today?
Well, we are brought to you by BOAGGIO'S Bread. They're located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. They're a home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pies, sandwiches, cutlets, meatballs, everything, the desserts, the cannolis. When I ordered for our little NFC title game, the divisional game, when I ordered food from there, I got the cannolis. They lasted me a week. And a week later, they were still phenomenal. So you got to go check them out, and you can use our promo code A2D, and you get 10% off your in-store purchase. So, BOAGGIO'S Bread.
Well, that's all I got. That's all I got for you, Dad. Beautiful. It tastes so good. Listen, we're really excited. There it is. There it is.
FBI. Hey.
Hey, Nunzio.
Yeah.
We're so excited to have on the Blue Meanie, Brian Heffron. Brian, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And brother, huge. When the Super Bowl, when we made it to the Super Bowl, I knew there were certain people I needed to reach out to because I know what their intelligence is. I've seen Brian at a couple of conventions, the Icons conventions. This guy, me and him had, I know, right around the Super Bowl year, Brian, we had a 25-minute conversation, just birds. And this guy knows his stuff. And I thought we have to have the Meanie on to talk Eagles Super Bowl preview and review the 2022 season. So again, Brian, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time today, brother.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I'm born South Philly, raised South Philly. Just I was indoctrinated into the Eagles fandom from birth. Like I said in the waiting room before we got in here, I learned my first swear word by watching my grandfather watch the Eagles. So in the 70s and the 80s. But I love all Philly sports, but I really love the Philadelphia Eagles, and my whole life, good, bad, and ugly, and especially this amazing year, which kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it really did. It really, really did. And it's actually so our topic of conversation to open up, and we always don't agree to disagree topic of conversation. This is the best Philadelphia Eagles team in franchise history, top to bottom. Brian, do you agree or disagree with that statement?
It'd be hard to argue against when you think of the receiving core we have, the offensive line we have, the defensive line we have, the cornerbacks we have, safeties. I mean, show me the weakness.
Linebacker. Right, linebacker, and I didn't think we'd ever say that. It's been a long time since we could say linebacker.
Edwards is holding up his part of the bargain there. I think he's doing a fantastic job. We've had a share of heartbreak with the linebacking core, but I think with this defensive line, it kind of covers up a few of those things. I think the linebackers are doing all right, but the main focus of this defense is the line. They're hungry. They're getting after the quarterbacks. 3 times this year they've knocked 3 quarterbacks out of games. Between Rodgers and this last game with Brock Purdy and Johnson. It was like a body bag game all over again. It was not that you want somebody to get hurt like that, but it's amazing that our defense is that devastating, that our front four can just get to the rush up front, and the cornerbacks are, keeping them at bay for our for guys like Reddick to, get to the quarterback. So, yeah, like I said, this is probably the best Eagles full rounded team of all time. And, just between and they're like, 5 sacks away from tying the 85 Bears as far as all time sacks and stuff like that. Philadelphia's always been like a defensive town. That's why we revere guys like Buddy Ryan, even though he never got us to a playoff win or to the promised land. He built a hell of a defense, and that's why we love it, because Philly loves a good bruising, bloody knuckle defense. So, I've been amazed by this run. You could kind of feel something in that first Detroit game, and then there was a build throughout the season where you don't want to say it out loud. You don't want to be the jinx. You don't want to be but like you're like, something going on here, and you kind of felt it a little bit last year when they were down 2-5. They had that little bit of a run and made it to the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah,
I think that in a lot of ways it reminded me of the 2007 Phillies, where they finally got over that hump, got to the playoffs. They didn't win the division, but they got to the playoffs, and the Phillies got run over by the Colorado Rockies, and they were like, okay. So
you
now
could see the corner turning there, though. You could see the pieces were in place, and it was about getting that experience, kind of what you talked about, right? Where this year Jalen coming in, listen, I mean, I don't think anybody saw what the development that happened, and it was fair. Anybody who critiqued it and the people who try to say, well, you're jumping on a bandwagon now for Jalen, nobody's jumping on a bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
But the critique was fair, because there's not many players in the history of the NFL that have made the progress in a 2-year span at the rate that he has. Maybe Josh Allen, and literally there's nobody else, right? So to your point, you could see them turning a little bit of a corner last year, where they're like, okay, they might be building towards something special.
Well, I think it took that humiliating loss to the Bucks in last season's playoff for them to say, all right, we got something here. We need to just add a couple pieces to it. I think we'll be all right, which is kind of what the Phillies are doing. They were like, okay, we'll get into the wild card. We'll see how we go. Hell, they got to the World Series, and now they've added Trey Turner and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened with this Eagles team. They got to the playoffs. They got embarrassed in the playoffs, and they're like, never again. Went out, got AJ Brown, went out, and midway through the season, when they had that embarrassing loss to Washington, they're like, never again. They went and got Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh to seal up that run defense. And they're doing what they had a feeling, going back to last year to this year, and they went and got the key pieces they needed to become one of the most dominant teams in football.
Yeah, absolutely, Dad.
It's tough, right? There's an asterisk next to it, because we don't know. It hasn't been finished yet, right? And as much as that, the roster and the stats and all those things would tell me, yeah, this is the best overall team we've seen, right? But
it's the most talented and deepest.
Yeah, for sure. I think we all started the season off by saying, hey, this roster is legit, but it's not played on paper, so we got to wait and see. And then, like you guys are saying, once we were 4 weeks in, 5 weeks in, and the carryover from last year, you're like, all right, this is special, especially since a 2-5 start, and the run from last year into this year that they've gone on is really, truly amazing if you take out the Tampa loss, right? And that's their first taste and sort of expected. But the best team in franchise history we watched 5 years ago today. I mean, we watched it because that's a full team. Right. It wasn't just a great roster. It was on paper before we started the season. I think we all thought we were going to be good. How good, we didn't know. It was Carson's development. We weren't sure. Does Carson take the next step and show us he's a franchise quarterback? Well, remember the beginning of that year, it was kill, kill, kill. And we were all like jacked up. Look it up. Look at me. There's how to read a defense. Well, we got our guy. We got our guy. And everything was going right. And nothing was going wrong. And then all of a sudden, the injury happens in the Rams game. And Colonel, we did a show that week where I was in a robe, and then it finally hit me. Like, okay, this is how curses end. Like, we've been cursed our whole life. Is it the curse of the snowball? Is it what's the curse of? What do we do wrong? Is it the curse of what did I say the other night? Who was the owner that let Reggie go? Was it the curse of letting Reggie go? What was it? What's holding us back from just getting one? And it hit me like Boston's curse has ended in weird ways. They're down 3-0 to the Yankees. That's over, right? And they come back and win. And the Cubs ended when nobody really expected it. They were down in that series to the Indians, right, at the time. So they end in weird ways. And it hit me like, if it's going to end, like, this is how it ends. No way. When Nick Foles, who was here before, he's back again. Nobody's giving us a chance. And that team went as a full team and not only won, but beat the greatest quarterback of right now of all time. We'll let Mahomes, we'll judge that at the end. But the greatest quarterback of all time, we skinned him. And he played his best game that he ever played in the Super Bowl. And we still found a way to win. So I'm going to disagree, but it's on with a big asterisk. Because if they win next Sunday, they're absolutely the best team in franchise history. From top to bottom, roster construction, every little bit, everybody, how deep they are. So I'm close, right? I want to agree because of what we watched over this year and how
you just want to see the finished product.
I just want to see the finished product because I think, I think they're going to finish the job. So knowing what I think is going to happen, yeah, I would agree then. But I'll give it to 2017 just until they go finish the job and then they take it over from them.
Yeah, ultimately, they would be the best Eagles roster because they've won the Super Bowl. But just from a standpoint, and there's a lot of ways where this team's similar to there. There's a couple hired assassins. Back then we went out and got a couple quarterbacks, and we got LeGarrette Blount, and we got a couple people that were like 1-year rentals to help us get to that part. And this year we went out and got Sue, we got Linval, and we went out and got James Bradbury. For on a 1 year.
My boy, that's my son.
Yeah. This team's full of a couple rentals that helped us get to the part, just kind of like in 2017, where we got some players. But ultimately, I think if this team does win, if they happen to win the Super Bowl this year, don't want to be the mush. I think this team would just be the most dominant team because, in 2017 they were done in a lot of ways. With this team, they were doubted. They're playing some of the best football, and people were still like, I don't know, and people are still picking other teams over the Eagles. In 2017, the Eagles were playing lights out and bullying teams, and people are like, nah, I'll give it to whoever's playing them, and they just kept winning. And this year, it got to the point where a lot of people kept downing the Eagles. Oh my God, they almost let the Detroit Lions be in them. I have friends who are Cowboys fans, unfortunately, and they,
we all got those friends, Brian.
I got some family that is. So I mean, I'm in terrible shape.
My brother-in-law's uncle was on the first Cowboys Super Bowl team on the offensive line. So believe me, I've been there.
It's our cross to bear, But that first Detroit game, people were saying, oh, this Eagles team stinks, but then they won another game. And then they won another game. They didn't lose till they got to Washington, So, with the starting quarterback, they've lost one game. They lost 3 altogether. But, it's been a dominating – this Eagles season has been a dominating force. And no matter how good they do, people always pick against them. And I think that's what's going to help motivate them to win it all. Last week somebody on the 49ers said, well, we know their defense is good on paper. And Darius Slade just, went on the interview saying, he read that line of how they were the best defense on paper and took that to heart. And people are still doubting this team, even though they're the favorites. People are still pulling for Kansas City. So I think they got enough ammo. And I think, they're it's hard to say that everybody's injured, right? But this team is full strength. There's not one backup where 2017 we had a bunch of, thank God we had a deep roster to where people can step in. All our starters are good. Avonte Maddox is resting with his boot, but
getting him back was huge. Getting him back was a huge addition. See, I agree to the poll question. I know we got to finish the job. I believe that we will. But when I just look, I'm just going by roster, and I'm looking at the team and the production throughout the year. This team is as deep as it's ever been. To your point, Brian, they're healthy, which is unbelievable that we can go in with a fully healthy roster
100%.
going into the Super Bowl. It's unbelievable because that never happens for any team. It's a huge, huge advantage for us. And me and I know, Dad, we've talked about this. We talked about it on A2D Wednesday nights. The key to this team, you guys talked about it, right? This whole soft schedule thing is nonsense to me because the only reason that the strength of schedule is a way to have a conversation talking point to kick off before the season starts. When the season rolls, Detroit, hey, everybody said, oh my God, I can't believe that they almost got beat by Detroit. Well, Detroit proved to be a pretty formidable foe to a lot of teams throughout the year.
Probably would have been a better playoff team than the teams that were in it.
Absolutely. Minnesota, the number 3. I mean, we all kind of knew Minnesota was a little bit of a fraud this year, but Minnesota was the number 3 team in the conference. And you go and even Green Bay kind of kicked off right after us, but Green Bay was an underachiever. Green Bay was like the NFC favorite when the season started. And so when people want to talk about strength of schedule, plus you look at the division we played in, almost all 4 teams made the playoffs this year. Yeah. That is a lot to be said for that. So, you look at this roster and I just, you look at the historical marks that this defense has made, the front 8. We like to call it a front 8, Tom, right? That's what we did in 2017. Yep. This is the first time we've had those vibes. It's like a front 8 that you have because you rotate a lot of these guys in. But just to see the strides that certain guys have made, some of the young guys, and to what you said, Brian, bringing in, Joseph and Sue and some of these other pieces, they've done it again. They've done it the right way. Howie has done it to know what's going to fit this roster. I mean, the guy is a masterclass in terms of general managers. And I'll tell you right now.
DJ. I mean, they went and traded for him. That was almost like a below the radar big pickup. I mean, he's
a massive addition. And James Bradbury, you look at those 2 pieces alone, it's the best secondary in football. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close. So, I mean, I look at this team and I see Howie doing it again. And has there been frustrations over the last couple of years with him? Sure there is. But I'll tell you right now, if this team wins this year, Howie's a Hall of Fame general manager.
Oh, yeah.
He might be one of the best top 5 general managers in history of football.
Well, and the owner gets a lot of credit. Like we talked about the other night, Chrome. I mean, he gets a ton of credit. Like when you talk about it, when he starts his tenure off here, he hires a guy like Ray Rhodes. Ray Rhodes takes him to the playoffs, and then they realize, okay, the rah-rah runs out after a little bit. And then he goes and brings in Andy. Nobody knew who Andy was, right? And Andy goes and changes his franchise. When people are like, why do you love Andy so much? Because if you watch football in the 90s, then you would love Andy, right? You would love what he did. He put us back on the map. Every year we came into a season expecting to compete. Then he hires a guy like Chip, right? A name that we all knew, right? And he goes and hires another name we all knew. We win 10 games, 2 years in a row. And he realizes, okay, after that, we have a bad year. This isn't working. He has no problem moving on. He moves on. I remember when they hired Doug, it was like, well, who are they going to hire? They brought in a lot of guys. It seemed like they didn't have a guy. And then all of a sudden it's Doug Peterson. I know I really like to hire. At the time, I know some people really didn't. They're like, oh, you're going back to Andy Street. How can you go back to Andy Street? Well, Andy Street's pretty good. Doug wins the Super Bowl. Then he hires, then he fires Doug, or mutual, they part ways mutually, whatever the case may be. And he goes and hires a guy like Nick Sirianni. Again, that one I was weird with. That one
nobody was on the radar.
Like, what? What is this move? What is this move? Then you hear him talk, and you're like, okay, bro, now we're rock, paper, scissoring. Like this is youth sports. So to get through all that is every time he's done it, he's nailed his coaching hires all the time, even when we think they're bad hires. And he trusted Howie when we stopped trusting him. Right? We stopped trusting him. I'm guilty of it. After 2017, he had so many misses for a minute that I'm like, you know what? It's time. It's time. And he stuck with them. And it says something about loyalty. It says something about trust. And it says something when you talk about being a gold standard. Guess what, Jeffrey? You're one win away from your words coming true. It's that simple. The Hall of Fame, Howie, Chrome, to what you're saying, Jeffrey is one win away from his words that he said in the 2000s when we all said gold standard.
I'll tell you what, Howie Hero
Oh,
turns into Howie Hall after that.
Yep.
Hall.
They both should go in. Let them both go in. And now we separate ourselves, right, from the one-win Super Bowl teams too, which is there's plenty of one-win Super Bowl teams. You start getting to two, you start putting the conversation with the best organizations of all time, right? I mean, you're not there yet, but you start to put yourself in that conversation.
Historically, somebody just put up a graphic the other day. The Eagles are, along with 3 other teams, to be the first. They're in that rare air where they went to Super Bowls with 2 different quarterbacks, 2 different head coaches, and it's only been done 3 other times. When you think of all the history that the Eagles are breaking between,
I think within like a 5-year time span or something like that, right? Is that what you're mentioning? Yeah.
Who do you know who did it?
One was the Colts.
Was Pittsburgh? Well, I feel like Pittsburgh might be because didn't they do it with Coward and then they did it with Mike Tomlinson shortly after?
I might be one of them. It was definitely the Colts, Pittsburgh, Eagles, and the other one's escaping me right now. But I watched so much. It was the Rich Eisen show this week. They put up that graphic. I want to give them credit because I don't want to act like I'm smart, but
still smart. Smart.
I'm smart. I'm not dumb like they say I am.
You're smart to log it.
Yeah. I just I listen. That's one thing pro wrestling taught me: mouth closed, ears open, and absorb. But we go back to Sirianni and his introductory press conference. A lot of people were dogging him, and the thing that I always equate.
Rightfully so, though, Brian. That was a rough opening.
You know who also had a rough introductory press conference? Charlie Manuel. Just this stumbling, bumbling hillbilly. What's he know about baseball?
Yeah.
Oh no, he took us to our second World Series win.
Oh, dude was a genius. He was a genius manager. He really was.
Yeah, and I think that's what we got here with Sirianni. I think he was a sleeper candidate that everybody overlooked, but he did great. What happened to the Colts once he left? Just look at everything that happened with that Colts and their offense once he left and came over to the Eagles. And now they're trying to, interview Steichen to possibly be a coach over there. They're trying to get some of that Sirianni magic back over to Indianapolis. So I think we lucked out. Like you said, they always had their eye for hiring coach, and the one dud was Chip Kelly. And Chip thought he was smarter than everybody, and he came off as smarter than everybody. I remember the day Chip Kelly got fired. Like it was like he was in charge of he was the coach, but he was also hiring personnel. And I was listening to the press conference on WIP, and somebody said to him something about the personnel. He goes, "I don't handle that." I was like, "What? You're the guy who just you shipped off Deshaun and all those guys off. You broke up, the team and brought in your guys, and you're not responsible." And within 3 hours, it was announced that he was fired. I was like, I'm sure Jeff Lurie heard that press conference, like, get him out, get the hook. But they found I think they found the right guy in Sirianni. And now people are trying to, discredit him with whether it's love and with the Giants and stuff like that. But
it's a lot of bitterness, Brian.
Well, I'll just say from coaching sports, period, right? Which I do, not at a pro level, but like, does talent help you? Absolutely, it helps you. But you still got to coach. You still got to develop. You still have to have your guys ready to play. Your guys still have to want to play for you, right? That's the end of the day. Like, I have a super talented, one of my teams is super talented, right? I've had him for a while, okay? But they play for me, and that matters. Like, yes, it's easier. I'm not going to lie to you. It makes your job easier when your talent's better. Of course it does. Right, of course, but you still got to coach those guys up. You still got an in-game scheme. Like, you can have all the talent in the world, but if everybody knows what play you're running, right, or whatever the case may be, and you're not intelligent and you don't adapt and you don't change your style at times, then guess what? It's going to catch up to you. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. You still got to finish a job.
And there's no accidents in the NFL. You're talking a 53-man roster that you're running. Like, you're not talking about we got to manage, an NBA.
Well, and other pro players, Crum.
personalities.
Sorry, Crum. Other pro players. Like, I'm talking about youth sports. Like, we're talking about other
Yeah.
pro players. That makes it even harder to
There's
win.
a whole lot of personalities. There's a lot of guys who are bigger than you. Some are older than you. And I can tell you from experience, when you're the manager of somebody who's older than you, not everybody gives you that kind of respect, that level of respect. But this,
and that was the fault of that was one of Chip Kelly's faults. He was trying to treat grown men like college players.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
That was
Sirianni has done a perfect job of not only coaching players, but coaching personalities, coaching egos,
Talking to people. Right, Brian?
Listen,
I mean, how important is it just to say hi to somebody in the hallway? How important is it to say, hey, how's your family doing? How's your little one doing? It goes a long way. Jake sent me the multiple Super Bowl appearances. So first one, is that the Dolphins or the Colts? I think it's the Colts.
I think the Colts.
Earl Morale, I don't even know who Earl is. Don Shula, and then Johnny Unitas and Don McCaffrey.
Okay.
And then McCaffrey, sorry. And then the Raiders was Ken Stabler, John Madden. And then it went to Jim Plunkett, Tom Flores. The Patriots, Bledsoe, Parcells.
Yes.
That makes sense, yeah.
And then Brady, Belichick. And then here we are with Nick Foles, Doug Peterson, Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Amazing. So, this team does it. They're in rarefied air, And I'm sorry.
Who's your standouts? So in the 2022 season, Brian, when you look at, like, give me an offensive and a defensive standout acquisition, the one that you think on each side maybe is what pushed this team a little bit over the top in terms of, we were a team that there wasn't much expectation, but these guys came in and really kind of changed it up a little bit, shook it up.
I mean, offensively, I think Smitty's been having a quiet, big season. I mean, AJ Brown came in and made the big splash. He was the big acquisition, one of them, because him and Hassan Reddick.
Yeah.
Hassan to me is probably one of the best free agent signings in Eagles history, just from statistics and how he wrecks the opposing team's game. But Smith, I think he's been having a really good season, and he's made some spectacular catches.
You're after Tom's heart there, because that's Tom's boy over here. He's been preaching and yelling to the skies for the Devontae Smith bandwagon this year, and rightfully so.
I love Smitty, and he's so humble. You watch interviews with him, he's quiet and he's polite, but on the field he's an assassin. I mean, that one catch he made against the Cowboys, which I wish they would have called a timeout directly after that, but they didn't. That catch, the quote unquote catch against the 49ers, I think it was a catch. I think the thing that threw off the put in the debate, if you would wear like white gloves to where you can see the hands underneath the ball, when you're dealing with shadows and wearing the black gloves. And
smart though.
Too,
he was smart though. Let's go. Get up to the line.
They teach that. I mean, they have seminars and they teach that to, get whenever in doubt, run it out,
get them up. Let's go.
Next play, please. But yeah, Smitty's, to me, on offense, it's been Smitty. Defense, you're saying like a quiet acquisition, or somebody who's
just give me your defensive MVP. Obviously you mentioned Hassan, but
Hassan's definitely the MVP. But like if there's like a second one, I would have to go with TJ Edwards. He's been playing
huge this year.
I know me and Greg love you right now. I don't know if you don't know Greg. You don't know Greg, but Greg's like, that's TJ is Greg's son. Devontae's my son. So you're pulling at heartstrings right now.
Who's the kid that we got? The defensive kid that fell in the draft that we got?
Nakobe Dean.
TJ Edwards is so good. He's kept Nakobe Dean off the field. That was our grand theft auto in the draft, was getting Nakobe Dean. He should have been gone in the first place, but we got him. But TJ,
it's going to be a stud still. He's still going to be an unbelievable.
He's going to have.
They haven't needed him.
If they can't re-sign TJ Edwards, then we got Nakobe Dean with fresher legs. You know, and he's getting some play in there. You know, when they had to pull the starters in the fourth, he got in there, and he wherever the ball is, he's there. So Kobe Dean's going to be another piece of our future going forward. But defensively, TJ Edwards is playing so good, he's kept Kobe off the field. So I would get Son Reddick is number one, but if somebody's having a quiet but successful year, TJ Edwards for sure.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like Tom said, you're tugging at all the right heartstrings right now, because these guys, especially on our A2D Wednesday night show, have been singing the praises for these boys, and rightfully so. I mean, what a year TJ's had. And you look at it, right? Look at him. You look at this team, and there's a lot of guys. They've done really well in the draft the last couple of years, but they've done really well in undrafted free agent signings as well, because TJ Edwards was one of those guys. Even when CJ went down, you look at Reed Blankenship and the way he filled in for those couple of weeks. They've done really, really well at adding depth and not the most obvious names either.
That
like
he put on Debo was amazing to me. Like, even if it wasn't fourth down, he still made Debo Samuel drop the ball. He hit him so hard that he fumbled and recovered the fumble.
Yeah.
And if the NFL just put out the mic'd up for both championship games, and all the praise that the teammates were put on Blankenship. People, you're watching Smitty on the sideline going, man, that boy's playing out of his mind, and they're going up to him, going up to Blankenship, telling him how good he's playing. We got another piece for the future right there that we didn't know we had, but when something that looks like a bad situation, like CJ going down, turned out to be a good situation with learning who we had in Blankenship.
Agreed.
He intercepted Aaron Rodgers in his first game on a primetime game.
Like his first or second play of the game, wasn't it? It was pretty quick.
Early.
First drive, at least.
Early.
Yeah, and Slay was hoping to get that interception, but
but
Blankenship comes along, and then watching him play endears me to him as well, because he was given an opportunity, and you sink or swim. Once those bright lights come on, you either thrive or you shrink.
Yeah.
And he thrived in that situation.
Yeah, it's been something special to watch, and like we had talked about there, when you look at, we talked about Howie earlier, and there's a lot of question marks, and not every move has been perfect over the years, but for the most part, he's such a great identifier of talent. And he is, even like I said, even when you go to the undrafted rookie market and the guys he signed over the years.
I think he's done a good job. Sorry, Grim.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, I think he's just done a really good job of going to the power schools early and often, and not only going to the power schools, going to the ones that have won, and taking team captains like we've talked about in the past, and replenishing your roster with leaders. And I think that matters. And then it allows you, I'm not saying it allows you, but then those later picks, I just think it makes it easier to hit some of them. They're not, it's not as much, binoculars on every pick when you're hitting early. And when you hit early, it allows you to pick these developmental guys later that can be backups on your roster and not thrown and thrusted into starting roles right away, where they can actually develop. And I think it says something about a guy I've given a lot of grief to, and Jonathan Gannon, on the job that his staff on the defensive side has done of developing talent, having guys ready to play, especially young picks. And the same can be said on the offensive side of things, right? On how all these coaches, where I think maybe wasn't the greatest job when Doug was here, maybe. A lot of his guys, they let go or they moved on. But I think this staff's done a really great job of not only Howie picking well, but them getting guys ready to play too.
There's a cohesiveness from the top to bottom here that we questioned when Doug was here, because I do think that Doug at one point probably wanted to have a little more say in some things, and maybe the Eagles weren't willing to release those reins. But there seems to be a really strong cohesiveness with the coaching staff, with the front office, with the scouts at this point, to where what is needed for this roster to make this team maximize the potential for this team. And it seems like over the last 2 years, they've really done well. I mean, look, I didn't even think about it until the other day, and I looked it up. You know the Carson Wentz trade? You know what got you that? You got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith out of the Carson Wentz trade. That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is inconceivable that you have your top 1 and 2 Super Bowl wide receivers right now from the Carson Wentz trade, from a guy who right now is struggling to get off the 3rd spot on the Washington Commanders football team behind Tyler Reneke, and I don't even know who the hell else is on that roster. So think about that. What we ended up like the potential to turn that into something. And you just look and it's just being able to identify the talent, the front office and the coaching staff having the trust that, hey, this is our scheme. This is what we do. This is what we need to fill this roster. You go out and get a Hassan Reddick who, listen, he's been a beast, but I don't think he was looked at as a key signing in the way that it should have been with his talent level. Because I think there's some people who question, is he still at the same talent level that he was supposed to be coming out of college? And I mean, the dude came in, and let's be honest, right? He's right there with Nick Bosa. He's above Micah Parsons this year. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. And honestly, and I'm not saying this as an Eagles fan, even over Bosa, I think he should be the Defensive Player of the Year this year. I don't think it's going to happen, but there's a very, very strong argument for him. That signing was so unbelievable. Like how he just has a feel for the team. Nick knows what he needs here, and the coaching staff. And there's just a cohesiveness, Tom and Brian, we haven't seen in a long time. And we questioned it. We talked about, like, was Schwartz, was Doug, was everybody? Who's the coordinator? You know what? When Deuce Staley's name was thrown out a bunch of times, like there's a lot of question marks on, is the front office and the coaching staff connecting? There has to be issues. We argued ad nauseum about it on A2D Radio. Yeah. But you look at it now, and there's no question. There's no question that everybody's on the same page and everybody's paddling the same direction.
There was a lot of anger when Deuce wasn't taken as the head coach, but sometimes it takes a braver person to go the route not obvious. You know, could they have gone with Deuce, and could he have done well? I'm confident he could have. A lot of players, rallied for Deuce, but they saw something in Nick, and like you said, there is that cohesion to where the right hand knows where the left hand's doing, and they're both connected to the brain, which is the front office. Everything's firing on all the right cylinders, and Gannon himself, which he's been low level, doing a great job. To where he's doing such a great job, and people are like, fire Gannon. And I'm like, fire Gannon? We probably have one of the most historic defenses we've had in this town forever. And like I said, we're a defensive hell.
Here, Brian, in Philadelphia, there's a short-term memory where they could be locked down for 3 weeks, and then they have one real bad week, and everybody says, Jesus, here, this is who we knew he was. We knew he was this guy.
Yeah. Yokai,
better not be this week.
You're not lying about that,
because that makes for a long off season. I don't know. My two standouts, I guess. This will go different than Brian because he gave two great ones. Obviously. Let me just go with the quarterback. I was a guy on draft night. I never will question his leadership. I'll never question how great of a kid he was, but I absolutely question, can he throw it enough at this level? Can he do it enough? And after, last year, I had some of the same question marks, obviously. And I was willing to give him his junior year. Knowing the draft capital we had going into next year, I was willing to give him this year as a prove-it year. Prove to all of us that you can get better at some of the things you need to get better at. If there was a kid I would bet on to do that, it would probably be Jalen Hurts if I had a place to bet on it. But I'm not going to run from draft night on the confusion, on we just signed the quarterback to a lot of money. What were we doing? But either way, I'm going to give it to him. I thought he made it. Obviously, they didn't think. I mean, everybody knows this. He made a gigantic jump in everything. He's a top 5 quarterback in football. I don't care what anybody says. I'm saying top 5, and he's obviously one of the 3 best quarterbacks I think this season. Maybe 4th if you want to, Burrow, Allen, wherever people think those guys are. Either way, top 5, huge jump. Love Jalen.
I will tell you right now, if he wins the Super Bowl this year, you can make the argument. I mean, obviously he's behind Patrick Mahomes. I would still put Burrow over him. I would put him over Josh Allen. And it's not even a question to me. I would put him over Josh Allen. Specifically if he performs well in the Super Bowl.
Well, I think I put him over both. To be fair, I mean, if he comes out and just throw a number out, he comes out and throws for 270, say 2 touchdowns, no picks, and the Eagles win the game. I mean, that's a winner talk. That means you went through the whole postseason. You didn't even turn the football over. That's what winners do. So that's what quarterbacks are paid to do. They're paid to win and not turn the football over and give your team a chance to win, right? And I hate when people say, well, winning isn't a quarterback stat. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Winning Super Bowls is absolutely a quarterback stat. Hence the great Tom Brady. Hence the great Joe Montana. I mean, the list goes on guys that are Terry Bradshaw. They're just flat out winners. Yeah, they had talent around them, right? But they also contributed to it. Defensively, and I'll go with another guy that I didn't like, that wasn't ever huge on, but I thought, again, quietly a great year. And that's Josh Sweat. I mean,
huge year.
Like, not a huge fan. I had question marks. Can he be a 3-down D end in this league? Is he physical enough? Whatever. The list goes on some question marks with him too. But wow, all the things that we sort of saw glimpses of, they fully came out this year, and he was tremendous, and I thought he was tremendous against the run too. But getting after the quarterback, another double-digit guy, crazy.
When it comes to Josh Sweat, not only is he a great defensive player, but he's got a great 90s R&B name.
He does. I love it. Yeah. For me, offensively, I feel like there's so many good. I got to go Lane. Lane is just that dude.
He's a warrior.
Dude, he might be the best right tackle, and I'm not even bullshitting at all.
Of all time.
In the history of the NFL. When he's on the field, that is just game changing. You look at the
Dallas
massive level of talented players that he goes against week in and week out, and the way that he protects his quarterback, the way that he does his job on the right tackle position. I've never seen anybody do it the same way. It's unbelievable.
Just look
There's
at
nobody.
Just look at that Dallas game. He went down with the injury in the Dallas game, and Dallas almost made a run back with it.
You can see it immediately.
Eventually, the Eagles adjusted and put the game away. But as soon as he went out of that Dallas game, that's the key to a great player. Just how are they when they're not in the game?
Yes.
Look at how the Eagles played when they had Uncle Rico in the game. When Jalen was injured for those 2 games, how do people rally around somebody? They rally around Jalen, and to me, he's the MVP because of course, is he a system quarterback? Well, we saw how the system worked without him.
Yeah, Michael Parsons. That theory got shot a lot of holes through it.
Yeah, that guy. I don't know, but
he's a big Eagles fan this week, though.
Micah, don't bother showing up at Phillies games. We don't just stay away. Just stay away, you chrome. But
he's a big Eagles fan this week, though.
This week, yeah. Well, I'm sure his teammates love that.
Oh God, it's hilarious. Hilarious.
The comedy that is the Dallas Cowboys.
I know.
But breaking news, right?
Yeah.
Just I know I got us off on sidetrack, but just to see how you bring up Lane Johnson, who's a complete warrior. He's playing with the torn ab muscle.
The guy tore it. It was partially torn. Tears all the way, and he's like, you know what? I'm even better for it now. We're good. It's not going to get any worse at this point. Yeah. I'm more comfortable. I'm like, dude, this guy's he's a beast.
Love him. He's another guy who made a great professional wrestler.
Oh wow, God. I mean, there's a lot of things that dude. He's built for it. He could talk. He's just. I mean, you're absolutely right, Brian. He would have been great in that industry, but. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's Lane. He's the game changer. He makes everything happen for the quarterback to be able to extend plays, for the running backs to be able to, to stop the rush and for them to be able to get the running game going. It's easily him for me. On the defensive side, there's so many, but I'm going to give roses because this might be my last chance to be able to give them to him. I hope not, but I have to give them to BG, Brandon Graham. Coming back from the injury he came back from, having not just a great year, a career year.
Yeah.
The leadership that this guy has shown over, a decade plus. A guy who, when he first got here, there was a lot of question marks on what his fit was going to be. And he's turned around and become an absolute legend in this city. To me, he's Brian Dawkins level in terms of his meaning to the organization and over that decade. He's the guy for the defense, even over Fletcher. To me, Brandon Graham is the guy who is the face of the defense over the last decade. And the year he had this year, and I hope it's not our last chance, but if it is, I'm throwing my roses down at his feet now. I think he's been an MVP. That was a huge, we had, Sweat, we figured he's a guy who could be a double-digit sacks guy at one point. Hassan Reddick's been there before. So, but Brandon Graham, that was the surprise to me on the defensive side. For him to be able to put that kind of year up coming off of the type of injury he had was so huge to, again, propelling this defense to be historical a defensive front.
When it comes to Brandon Graham, I mean, coming out of the draft and his first couple of years, he was almost labeled the bust.
He was.
And then, he persevered and got better. And like I said, right now, he is the Brian Dawkins of that defense where, you can always count on him.
He's the heart, man.
He's the heart, the personality. That's the one thing that endears Philadelphians to players is personality.
Yeah.
Whether it's, over the top, an over top character or, I love, Jalen's, Jalen doesn't give you anything for bulletin board material. He always seems to say the right things. He's got the right tone. That's why it was kind of cool to see him come out of his shell when they put him on the spot, made him sing.
Oh my, worst singer of all time, but I loved it. I loved every second of it.
One of us, right?
One of us.
Love it. That's why I love Sirianni. He's one of us. He's passionate. That's why I love Brandon Graham because we went on the journey with him. From being the bust to being one of the all-time greats to having one of the all-time great plays in Philadelphia Eagles history with the strip sack on Brady. So
I met Brandon Graham right before the season started. And I don't know if I told this story on the air. I know I told you this privately, at least, Tom. I gave the man a hug and I was like a kid. I never get like this. I was like a kid. I put my head on his shoulder. He's a massive man. All I said to him was like, thank you so much for strip sacking Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. He gave me the biggest hug back and he was like, oh no, thank you. He's like, yeah, I was just as happy as you were that I did it. And he was the greatest guy but that's like you said, it's one of us. Like he wasn't like, oh, who's this weird guy hugging me? It was a moment. It was a moment I had. I felt the moment. He had a blast with it, but he's just one of those guys. Like he's just, I always hate, I try not to use he's a Philadelphia guy. I don't like that unless you're actually from Philadelphia. I try not to use it.
Yeah.
But man, to me, he is the epitome of a guy who was supposed to be here, was supposed to have the career he's had here, and he be a part of the lineage of this football team.
He's an adopted son.
He is. He's an absolute adopted son, and he gets it. He just gets it. To me, of everything, Jalen Hurts is the talent on the team, and there are certain guys that you identify as the face of it. But when I look at the heart of what this football team's been for the last 10 years, a lot of people say Jason Kelce, and rightfully so. But to me, Brandon Graham has been the heartbeat of this football team for over a decade.
Brandon Graham and Jason Kelce, man.
That's it.
Just you watch people.
You said your right and your left hand that work together right there. That's the offense and the defense, and everything else formulated around them.
Yeah. Especially a guy like Jason Kelce, who's considered to be small, and he's throwing men who have 80 pounds on him with one arm to the ground. Maybe it's because he has that lower center of gravity, and he can just punch up at you. But like,
I don't know. There's something in the genetics of those Kelce boys. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. And their podcast is fun. Listening to them talk about power bombing each other as kids and stuff like that. But there's so many stories with this Super Bowl. But Brandon Graham and Jason Kelce. I mean, I hate the whole Mount Rushmore thing, but they're definitely in the top 6. I'll be the awkward one. I won't say top 5. I'll say top 6 because it's my list, damn it. But yeah.
So let's dive into the Super Bowl, Bri. Give me your keys, and then I want to get your MVP pick. We need it. I know it's early, but we have to get a final score prediction from you at some point.
Here is, I'm going to say right now, here's the low-level secret weapon that the Philadelphia Eagles have against the Kansas City Chiefs that nobody that I've heard has said, and that's Ndamukong Suh. When you
you're tugging at my heart, Tom. Now you're tugging at my heartstrings.
When the last time the Kansas City Chiefs went to the Super Bowl and were dismantled, who was on that team? Ndamukong Suh. So he knows a little bit of the secret sauce it takes to throw Patrick Mahomes off his game. Patrick Mahomes, as great as he was at trying to do whatever magic he could do in that game, the Tampa Bay Bucks wrecked that offense. He was on that defense. And whatever he can bring to this Eagles defense to hopefully throw Patrick Mahomes, one of the best quarterbacks in football right now. He's a magic man. Nothing to get, it's easy to hate on Brady, and stuff like that. But there's something about Patrick Mahomes that endears me to him. But not that I want to see him win either. But I want to see him lose to the Philadelphia Eagles. And to me, that would cement the Eagles, as the 2 Super Bowl wins. Because people go, oh, who'd they beat? Well, they beat Patrick Mahomes, one of the best quarterbacks in football. But to me, low level secret weapon that nobody's really talking about is Suh versus Mahomes. And if he can get to he knew how to get to Mahomes in the Bucks game. Hopefully he can do the same thing in this Eagles Chiefs game.
Yeah, to that point, Brian, and me and Tom, we talked about a lot of these names, and again, now you're tugging everybody's heartstrings. This was the name I brought up on Wednesday night.
I'm the baby face,
you are definitely baby facing A2D right now. I'm waiting for the heel turn, but I have to tell you, when I look at Suh, I mean, I'm a Husker fan, so I've always been a big Suh fan. But that being said, he's a guy who he's not in a lot of, he's not playing a whole ton of snaps, maybe 40% of the snaps, whatever it is, 42% snap. But it feels like he's on the field all the time because he's always around the football. And when he is on the field, he's making plays. And when you have a veteran like that who's won, a guy who's he's a surefire Hall of Famer as well, having that kind of experience. And Joseph can kind of be tied in here too, bringing a guy like him in with his experience. But to me, to your point, when you bring in Suh and he's had the experience in the big game against this quarterback and this team, and he knows his role and he does it so well. I think he's a huge key. Yeah. One of the big keys in this Super Bowl, right, is that, and I will stand by this, and I know Tom's right with me on this. Patrick Mahomes has never played a game against a front four like this front four,
right,
in his entire career so far.
Yeah,
and that not even a front four, a front 8.
Yeah,
when you rotate these guys in, he's gonna. I mean, listen, I don't know how many times they're gonna get him on the ground, but they're gonna make him make some quick decisions where he's gonna have to make some real snap decisions or get rid of the football. But
on one leg.
On one leg. I mean, well, we'll see. I hope. Hope, but I think he could be good to go. But yeah,
that's not 100% though. No shot. That's 100%.
No, it's impossible to be 100%.
Not to interrupt, I'll let you get back to the point. But
yeah,
that high ankle sprain, that's like a 2-month, 3-month injury.
Well, you've been there before with it.
Yeah, and I was just talking about this with somebody today. That usually high ankle sprains could lead to Achilles tears. So, if you numb that leg up enough and you don't know how much damage you're doing, you're running around that leg, how much further damage you could do. That, say in this game, Patrick Mahomes goes down with an Achilles tear and he's out for the portion of next year.
Yeah,
that could be the steel line from Mike Tyson. That's the skullduggery. of the if you get not only can you impose your will physically, but mentally to where he's thinking, I got this thing, I got to protect this thing. And while he's busy protecting this thing, he's not protecting this thing, which is the football.
They're going to be able to make plays on this, man. They're going to be able to make plays with this front 8.
I shouldn't feel this confidence, but I do.
Well, yes, we should. Yes, we should, Brian. And that's sort of I've been saying that since the start of the playoffs. Like, we got to walk and start talking like winners. We got like once 2017 ended and we won our Super Bowl. From that point on, we got to walk and talk like, hey, we belong, and not something's going to go wrong, right? And I think that's been how we've been built for years, that we expect something to go wrong. And I think it's awesome to see more and more fans walking with our chests out a little bit. Maybe we don't win, right? We don't know. Nobody knows. But if we walk around with some confidence, I got a feeling that's going to age better than the other way we've done it for however long we've been watching all Philly sports.
Well, going into everything, listen, I'm an energy guy. When you go in and you feel like you're dragging your feet and it's almost like torture getting there because you're just expecting the worst. I believe in the energy you put out there, positivity, and listen. Like to what we've talked about this, Tom. When you've done what we've done over the last 20 years, and you've finally gotten over that hump 5 years ago, and you're back already. Like, it's hard to get back to a Super Bowl. We're back there within 5 years. That's pretty damn good. It is okay to be confident. It is okay to look at this team and acknowledge the fact that when you go down the line, when you go on through the checklist of who has the advantages and what positions, and it's okay to say, you know what, I look at that. The Eagles get the advantage over 80% of their roster.
Yeah.
They should be confident. It's okay. We beat the GOAT already. We've beaten the GOAT already when he was still the GOAT.
Yeah.
So it's okay to go in against Patrick Mahomes and not say, oh, here we go. Oh, we can never have it easy. We can never get the Trent Dilfers of the world. We have to go against the Bradys and the Mahomes. It's okay. This team can handle it. This organization, this coaching staff, they got a moxie about them. They have a confidence about them that I just feel that energy. It's okay. We can embrace it and feel good about ourselves going into this.
Well, like I said, I definitely feel confident going into this game. We're at full strength, and I just read that one of their wide receivers might not be a go for this game. I forget which guy.
He's out. Hardman.
Okay. Yeah,
that's a big blow for them. He's one of their better receivers, Mecole Hardman.
So if that's one less guy you have to kind of worry about, you could kind of focus more on Travis Kelce. And you take Travis Kelce out of the game, and Mahomes has to scramble around trying to figure out what he's going to do with the ball. That front four is going to feast like me at a Chinese buffet, man. Where I walk in the door and they go, "Uh-oh," Just it's going to be a good game for this defense. I think it's going to be like a road warrior type, offense. They hawk an animal, putting the guys on their shoulders and clotheslining them off the top rope. I think it's going to be that kind of defensive game where, look what this team did to the 49ers. I mean, they had the number one defense, and we put 31 up on them. Right. Their quarterback wasn't in the game, but the reason why their quarterback wasn't in the game is our defense knocked two quarterbacks out of the game and knocked one right back into the game.
Because that's it. Yeah. Doesn't happen often.
And we knocked three quarterbacks out of the game this season. So that's another thing, Mahomes has got to, keep in the back of his mind, don't let Sue get to you. Don't let, Sweat get to you. Hassan Reddick. I'm very confident with this defense.
Absolutely. All right, Brian, give me your Super Bowl MVP. Give me your final score prediction. And then I just want to talk about your podcast real quick.
MVP, it might be Hassan Reddick. It might go.
I'll tell you what, if you're a betting man, that plus 3,700 looks real nice right now. I think that's a pretty good bet if you're going to go off quarterback.
I know if he wins that, he's best defensive player and maybe in franchise history.
Next to Reggie. I still
I tend to not go back into the 90s with this stuff. I tend to say 2000. So I'll say this better. 2000s up. I know how great Doc was. I get it.
100% the best.
I get it. Dawkins is awesome, but I don't know if he ever had the impact on games that we've watched Hassan Reddick have, not only through this postseason but all year.
There's like two levels. There's two different NFLs. There's an NFL where you're allowed to hit the quarterback, and there's an NFL now where you're not really allowed to hit the quarterback.
It's true.
And the fact that he's doing this in an era where you're not really supposed to hit the quarterback, but he's still affecting games and still doing damage. He's in his own era. Like, same with quarterbacks, you know, I'll take Joe Montana played where, people are ripping his head off, whereas Tom Brady played great in an era where he just looks at the official and the official throws the flag for him. So, Hassan Reddick is doing amazing in this new era of football where you're not really supposed to, lay a finger on the quarterback, but he's doing not only physical damage, but mental damage. And I think he'll affect Mahomes in a way to where Mahomes won't be himself, where he's got to hold the football by out of the corner's eye and be like, all right, where's it coming from? Play the Jaws music, But,
so we have Hassan Reddick as your Super Bowl MVP pick.
Yeah.
Give me your final score. I got to get your final score here, brother.
Eagles 34, Chiefs 21.
Oh,
you're not far off from me. I have Eagles 31-21 as my early prediction. So you're not too far from me. I like where your head's at.
I was going to go 31, but there's definitely going to be at least one stop where the Eagles have to settle for a field goal.
Yeah.
So that's where the 34 comes in. And, they'll have to do it. They'll do like 2 field goals. I'll give it to the Chiefs defense, but I think this offense will just wear them out and tire them out to the point where, like the 49ers defense started getting chippy because they knew they couldn't handle this offensive line.
Yeah. Brian, this was awesome, man. Loved having you on Talking Eagles Super Bowl. Tomorrow, if anybody's in the the Baltimore area, he's Baltimore Celeb Fest. Brian's doing the convention over there.
Yep.
So make sure you guys stop by, check him out, say hi, get a picture, get a photo, get an autograph.
Yeah, I like the BWO shirts and all that good stuff. So
I love that. I got my BWO shirt from you already, brother. But listen, let's talk real quick. I know you got your own and this is what a warrior this guy is. He did his own podcast right before he hopped on ours. So appreciate you, brother, for doing this. Tell us about your podcast, where we can find it.
If you would like to listen to more banter like this, I have a podcast which is right over my shoulder, Mind of the Meanie, which drops every Monday morning wherever you get your podcast. We're also on youtube.com/Mind of the Meanie. We talk about movies, sports, and tons of movies, wrestling, movies, sports, and tons of useless knowledge.
Love it.
I have right here. I have all this knowledge I can't make money with. So, but if you would like to support the Blue Meanie, if you would like to get one of those classic BWO shirts, go to prowrestlingtees.com/Blue Meanie. I got a lot of Philly centric shirts too, like the Philadelphia shirt, which comes in each team's colors. So if you would like to support the Blue Meanie, go to prowrestlingtees.com/Blue Meanie. Also, I'm on cameo.com/Blue Meanie BWO. But most importantly, I'm a Philly fan through and through. I'm a pro wrestler, but I've always bled green in the winter and bled Phillies red in the summer. And I'm just like you guys, and if the Eagles hopefully win, I'll be sipping beers on the corner of Broad and Shunk, and hopefully I can get another one of these Super Bowl belts. So
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. I'll tell you what, Brian, you have an open invite anytime you want to come on, brother. We'll probably hit you up at some points and say, hey, dude, you got to come on, whether it's a preview show or a recap show.
Yeah.
We loved having you on here, man. It was really, really an honor and a pleasure. This guy knows a ton about the Eagles. I'll tell you that. And this was great. So we appreciate you hopping on with us today, Brian.
Oh, Brian, thank you so much. It's great meeting you, great talking to you, and ton of great knowledge.
Oh, likewise. It's good to talk. It's good to talk with like-minded folks.
Yes, it is, and then it's always good to highlight, especially our sons from the area. And you're one of our sons here, Brian. So you're a Philly through and through, and we appreciate you. I mean, a lot of comments have come through too. People appreciating you coming on, loving hearing your insights. So You got an open invite anytime.
Make sure you go follow them wherever you get your podcast. I put it on the bottom.
Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, all those places.
Usually I'm good with that. So if you would like to follow the Blue Meanie, go to all forms of social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Blue Meanie, BWO. Usually I'm good with that. I don't know why I brain farted, but thank you for reminding me of my own social media. I got too much birds on the brain. So,
but thank you again for hopping on with us. Make sure you guys check out tomorrow too, because we have another local wrestling legend on with us here as well. Current WWE superstar, NXT superstar, Drew Gulak is going to join us tomorrow.
I love Drew.
Oh, he's a great dude. And dude, he's another one. He's a diehard Birds guy. So we're looking forward to talking to him. We're going to talk again a little bit more of a Super Bowl preview tomorrow. A lot of things going on in A2D Radio this week, guys. A lot of shows. We're going to talk previews. We're going to talk Super Bowl predictions. And we have our roundtable before the Super Bowl next week. So Sunday morning next week, we're going to have everybody here. The whole gang is going to be in, all of our personalities. We're going to make sure that we bring you guys one of the best. And if you watched our preview show 5 years ago, that was to this day, people still talk about what a hell of a show that was. But when you mix guys like Wilson with me, it's going to be a lot of this. A lot of fun, though. So
awesome.
But for myself, for Tom, from the Blue Meanie down here, Brian Heffron, there it is. Oh, I was waiting to get one. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you to our sponsors. Make sure you check out A2D. Like, subscribe, hit the damn follow button. Let's go. Share it out. And you guys have a great week. Go Birds. Go